You sit really high up in a strange position. I felt stupid. I felt like a sort of noddy, like Mario Kart person. So boyhood dream was unlocked with I got to drive the Tyrrell F1, the six-wheel car, which had mesmerised me as a kid. It was my first. It wasn't a Scalextric set. It was a Polystil, which is the rival company. It was the Tyrrell versus the Ferrari, and it meant a lot to me because I was given this set when I was 4 years old. Like most kids, I raced with my dad. It was a Tyrrell box set, so the branding was all Tyrrell. You had the team sort of. It was a photograph of the test team. In what would you could tell kind of like was early days of this invention, and it was an invention, six-wheel car. Who would have thought? The funny part with the memory is that I used to race my dad with these cars, and they put a more powerful engine in the toy car of the Tyrrell for it to beat the Ferrari, which was ironic because the Ferrari had wider track and better handling. So my dad would drive the Ferrari, I would drive the Tyrrell. He would smoke me and then say, well, maybe next time, son. And I never beat him. And it was basically, I was in my 20s. I got the set out again. I was trying them. It's like, this Tyrrell's got a really powerful motor, but the Ferrari drives so much better. And I was like, my dad really had one over on me on that one. So that was pretty cool. And then you scaled up version. There's something kind of toy-like about elements to it. It's a big car though. It's just that the design, I suppose, is very striking. But the mini wheels do sort of seem off. There's something strange about it, and that you see, I don't know, it's kind of like looking at a spider. It's like, how does that work? It's got 8 legs. I only have 2. It still gets around, and you see the 4 wheels turning at the same time. It's kind of strange. So you're kind of like just playing with it, static, and seeing this stuff work, and then these funny links between the wheels, what makes them go. And they're offset. They don't turn exactly the same rate. There's loads of stuff going on there. And I did a fair amount of research before I drove it, just sort of reading between the lines of what the drivers were saying, what they liked, what they didn't like. Jody Scheckter famously, I think, was not keen on the braking, and found that I think that one of the little wheels would lock up, so you had more braking potential, but it would come off the ground. The car I drove was like a reimagined version slightly. They built it under with Tyrrell's kind of watch, so that it was given a chassis number, so it's an official Tyrrell. They built it with the same materials, but they made maybe a couple of very subtle tweaks that kind of kept the front wheels more aligned and less likely to tramp, which I think was a famous issue that they had back in the day. When you're exiting a corner, you would get some wheel tramp and start to vibrate, and you'd get some sort of weird rhythm going on. Because I didn't have any of that when I drove it. The cool thing with that car is it's got the DFV engine, so it's super reliable. Great linear power, so much fun. But the hardest bit with it was just fitting in the car. So it was bizarre. You sit really high up in a strange position. I felt stupid. I felt like a sort of noddy, like Mario Kart person. Because my head was way out the top. It's fairly tall. Your legs, basically your shins, there's a roll bar that goes through the where your legs should be. So your legs, literally, there's a metal bar there. So as you try to use the pedals, your legs smash it. His shins they don't like that. So you're trying to move around the pedals. There's G-forces at play, and when you need to brake, your legs have to move quite quickly. I'm a right foot braker, so my right leg's getting smashed to bits. I really enjoyed it though. It was super cool, and the braking was excellent because you've got the contact patch, bit of tyre that does grip the road is very small. So effectively, with 4 of those little wheels, you got really powerful braking forces. I couldn't adjust the brake bias, otherwise I would have definitely stuck more on the rear. It's huge rear tyres, but you definitely felt that because the car it worked. I mean, the whole idea was to be able to throw air across more efficiently to try and make up for the lack of power against the Ferrari. I think it was at the time that they felt had the edge, but it would have definitely made up performance under braking. So I think that was something that it was very potent with, and it won races. So it was a proper design. I recognise though this was not my car. It's a Formula One car. I had it for a short amount of time. But 100% the way to drive that was like an absolute hooligan. And if you go back and check out some of the footage, and by hooligan I mean good under braking, pretty good at turning, But then after that, you wanted to get on that power, and you really need to set it into a four-wheel drift to kick it through as quickly as possible and get the traction down. It did not want to be driven lightly on the power. And you can see that, the in-period footage, I think Depailler in particular, there's some great footage of him driving around Monaco and the thing sideways everywhere. So you just see this little front wheels just like, and he's skating it around the corners and squaring them off to get good drive on the exit. I definitely felt like I was. It feels like you're slightly in a toy because you're, big out the cockpit, the little wheels, but driving it. No, it's an F1 car and super powerful. But I just thought, the pain of this seating position and everything you're doing. How would you do it? Of course, you would do it. You're in Formula One. This is your golden ticket. You could win the championship in this thing. Goes to show you'd be ready to suffer. But that roll bar did get moved the year after. I can't get my years wrong, but year one, roll bar through your shins. Year two, they were like, hey, maybe we move the roll bar, and that's what happened. So the reason I was driving it is got a really great opportunity. Well, I've started my YouTube channel, Ben Collins Drives, 2 years ago. I just thought this would be a great thing to be able to review because it's a boyhood dream to drive this car. For me, the whole purpose of that channel is to tell stories about these great cars and document some awesome stuff that's going on from past, from now. And the Tyrrell I thought would be, I didn't know how much interest there would be in this aged Formula One car. But it's my best performing video, which is awesome. And we only had about 45 minutes to shoot it. There was loads of compromises. The microphone didn't quite work as we wanted it to. So we had to put subtitles on. But when I watched that back, I was laughing because it's just hilarious. Because it just I looked like, Mario Kart subtitles because you can't really hear what's going on. But it's just beautiful. The manual gearbox and all the flow of the car, the sound of the engine came across really well. So basically, it's just nice to get that experience, to review what this car was like. How did it feel to drive? And to try and communicate that, which is what I love doing, is like explaining how do these cars feel when you drive them? Where do they come from? Why do they matter? What's the engineering? What was the story? What were the engineers thinking when they came up with it? How would it have been like to have raced it in period? So the cool part with it is that actually later on, I got to meet Jody Scheckter, who raced that car back in the day. It's incredibly special, I think, to be able to go, these cars are living history, which is the coolest part of it. It's not something that happened and you can't go back there. It's a time capsule. You get to take this thing out on the same tracks they raced on. Okay, the tarmac might be slightly different, but you're driving it exactly the same way it was back in the day. The interesting thing with these cars from the 70s, old F1 cars, is they're actually more user-friendly than the modern stuff. I know a story of someone who hadn't got much experience. They put him in a modern F1 car with carbon brakes, massive downforce, went around Donington, and he did a couple of laps around Donington and came in, and the guy's like, look, you're not braking hard enough to get these carbon brakes hot. They're stone cold. They're not working. He's like, okay, what do I need to do? He said, right, what you need to do, go out in the car, put your left foot on the brake all the way down the straight, okay, and then brake hard into turn one. It's like, okay, got it. So this guy went out, did what he was told, dragged the brake, which heated up the disc, and pressed the brake pedal full. His head just came off the shoulders straight down, and he went straight into the gravel. So he was physically he just couldn't take the G-force. It was about 3.5 G of braking, and snapped his neck, and off he went. So the modern cars have just got so much grip that they really are otherworldly, and it's one of those things you kind of graduate to. You want to try and start in a junior formula, get used to it, and then get up to a point where you get to F1. But the carbon brake thing is a massive game changer. You watch some of the onboard footage. I've raced some of these tracks at the Formula One tracks. I've raced in LMP cars, in Le Mans prototypes, very big downforce, lots of power. I started to look at the braking points. The F1 drivers are flat through curves that are proper corners that in any car you would need to brake and down change for. They take it flat and they brake so deep. Looking at Imola in particular, they brake so deep and late, it's ridiculous. And they carry so much speed. So and even like what we're talking about now, 2024, cars are outrageously performing compared to just a few years back. The cars have got bigger, they've got more wings, etc. Going back to the 70s, the power is way more tame. The tyres as well are a lot more forgiving. You've got you can put bigger slip, but you have to put slip angle into it. You have to slide them around a bit more. That feels more intuitive to us as human beings. You have steel brakes, so that's not as big a deal. And when you press them, they lock up if you get it wrong, and they squeak and they make a screech and some smoke comes up, and you can respond to that. You've got a chance of surviving. Things like, I drove the Penske F1 from back then, really pretty cool. They just don't have so much wing. And I think that's what makes it easier to step into it. The engine's talking to you, you can hear it, popping and banging a bit. Once it clears its throat, you've got lots of things that are indicating to you how they should be driven. You've got a clutch on the is a pedal, not a paddle. There aren't 8 million buttons. I mean, what on earth is going on there? It's some sort of like video game that's gone wrong. And you watch the guys in modern F1, they're pressing this button, map such and such, da-da-da-da. All that's incredibly distracting, unless you're a professional racing driver. Back in the day, I think they had the on button and maybe, if you were lucky, a brake bias. So that's about it. So I think they are more accessible. I think that's probably why the prices are going up. People are looking back in history. So Sotheby's have been romping away with lots of pretty exciting stuff. The key thing, I never understood, you'd have this beautiful car, you spend a huge amount of money acquiring it, then go race it, potentially crash the thing and just destroy what you have. But the upside of it is that those cars that are being used have been cared for and they run. Whereas if you buy something that's if it's been sat still for a long time, I've learnt this sort of recently, everything has to be replaced. You kind of have to reinvent it. So is it just a show pony that's going to sit there like a matchbox on the wall? Great, that's fine if that's what you want. But if you want to be able to use it, you can't just take one of these cars and just turn the key, because it's going to just explode. So you need someone to help you with that. So that, I suppose, is the only bugbear with these old cars. But that's the positive if you've got something that's running. And I think that's what's really cool, because people are now racing these old historic cars. So we're seeing them come out. They're not just sitting in someone's garage, tucked away. There are lots of those, but more now we're getting to see these bits of history coming back out.
Over the last 4 years, we've partnered with Glossit to show off some of their amazing detailing products, give you some great deals, and show how much they can transform any car. But did you know that Glossit University is also one of the most amazing online resources for education, mentorship, and coaching for whatever your business is in the detailing space? Whether you do paint correction, ceramic coating, PPF, wraps, anything like that, they can take your business to the next level. And right now, they're offering free 15-minute phone consultations where you can schedule at the link in the description below. Tell them about your goals, tell them about your business, about yourself, and really where you want to get to, and they'll show you if they're online courses, they're in-person classes where I'll actually be in their August class, or they're one-on-one or group mentorship programs with Rich Light from Glossit. It's an awesome way to take your business to that next level. So set up your phone consultation now, talk to them about where you're at today, and they'll tell you where you could be tomorrow.